All right, so it appears that we are in fact live. Um, Let me just see if my video is working. Strange. Okay, slightly weird camera angle for some reason, but yes, we'll work with this. Okay, so where we stopped yesterday was can we come up with effects based on the Gilbreth principle, which um, we saw the basic version of the Gilbreth principle, which said that if you have cards that are alternating red and black to begin with, if you deal off a certain number of cards and if you riffle shuffle them, then the property that is preserved is that if you take cards in pairs, then you will always see a mix of one red and one black card. Okay, so let me know if you want to revisit that in any more detail. But for now, what we're going to do is see if we can use this principle, which works not only for red and black, but it also works for basically any cyclic. So just in case you had a chance to look at that number file video that I linked to, you'll see that I think they go over how it works for longer ranges of cyclic properties as well. So today what we are going to try and do is see if we can deal off like some impressive poker hands. So I'm going to pull out again, if you were doing this, okay, this is, I guess my video is mirrored, so the cards are looking all wonky. So let me okay, this is some cognitive dissonance for me, but hopefully you can see the cards all right. So if you're performing, you can show that this is like pretty much a random deck. And what we are going to do is try and pull out approximately 25 cards so that I can deal 5 hands of poker. So let me just count to be sure that I have 25. Okay, don't know if I have actually more than 25. Let me just check. It's 10, 15, 20. I need one more. No, I think I'm fine. Okay, so this is not banter, and I'm not trying to fool you or anything. I genuinely just need 25 cards from the top of the deck, and it's safe to assume that it's a good deck. In the way that the trick is described in the book, you actually have the spectator do all of this. You hand them the deck, you give them a brief overview of what poker hands look like, what value they have, and so on. So I learned from reading this that apparently, if you see all of the top values, which is like a ace, king, queen, jack, and 10, that's even with a mix of suits, that's considered fairly valuable. I don't know if that's what's called a straight flush or whatever, but that's a valuable combination. But what's even more valuable is if you have 5 cards that have the same suit, any suit. But if you have 5 cards that share a suit, then that hand is even more valuable. So we're going to try and see if we can do a random shuffle, but still end up with predictable hands somehow. That's the goal of this trick. So we're going to start off as we do with Gilbreth. We're going to start off by dealing off a certain number of cards. This can actually be any number. Remember, you're asking your spectator to do this. So you've no control. So you can assume that I'm not doing anything funny. So this is so I have 25 cards because I want to deal off 5 hands of 5 each. So let's deal off maybe roughly half, like 13 maybe is my lucky number. Uh, it doesn't have to be 13, doesn't have to be roughly half. It can be, if you've looked at the book already, then it can be any number between 5 and 20. If you're looking at 25 cards, and we have to figure out, actually that part maybe is not very hard to figure out why. And now you're going to give these a riffle shuffle. Here I will do something that might be the only impressive part of today's presentation. So I realize I'm very bad at riffle shuffling, so I got a professional riffle shuffle machine here. So might have to actually mute myself because it's a very noisy thing. And again, no funny business here. This is is just going to give me. Let me mute myself because this will be noisy. But I'm going to. I don't know how to show you this, but basically the cards are going to get riffle shuffled and they'll fall off here and I'll pull them up. Honestly, when you're doing this, you can just get your audience to riffle shuffle. Okay. Actually, a little scared now because I think that got stuck at the end. And in a riffle shuffle, you do want to maintain at least the relative order of the cards that come in. Not maybe I should have just done it by hand, but anyway, we will see. The point is at this stage, what you want to convince people is that a thorough shuffle has been done, so you can deal off the top X many cards of whatever and do a riffle. That's where you get. So let's recall what we have done. We have taken 25 cards. We have dealt off a few of them, deal off roughly half, basically more than 5, less than 20, and give it a riffle shuffle. That's all that we have done. And now we're going to deal off poker hands. The book says deal them off as usual. I don't know what that means, but I think when you're dealing poker hands, you go like that, as opposed to doing 5 at a time. Can somebody in the chat confirm if this is how you normally deal poker hands? Yeah, so we have 5 poker hands, and you can actually take one of these and see that, there's nothing special going on here. You have 2, 6, 8, 10, and so on. So again, remember your spectator is doing all this, and you can actually ask the audience, how do you want to reassemble? I should have asked you actually, but yeah, you can reassemble this any way you like. Okay. And we're going to give it another shot. Yeah. So do the same thing. Okay. So here, apparently, if I understand correctly, apparently this is where you stop and you say that this guy here is going to have a fairly impressive hand. Let's double check if that is true. So here, they're not the same suit, but it is what we called a straight flush. Not in order, but you have an ace, you have king, queen, jack, and 10. Okay, so you have a straight flush. And I hope you're impressed because there was a riffle shuffle somewhere in there. And we dealt out cards more than once. And I mean, I'm actually impressed because I don't know why this is happening. Because when we dealt it out the first time, we reassembled it, and it was a genuinely random reassembly. You could reassemble it however you like. But anyway, you have a straight flush here. But remember what I said about if you have all cards of the same suit, uh, that is more impressive than having the top 5 cards in value. So we're going to take this one and double check. So it turns out that they're all spades. Okay, so here we have, again, I don't know if this is like correct poker terminology, but whatever. You have a hand here, which is pretty impressive, and the odds of getting this at random pretty low. I don't know if we can calculate this probability off the top of our heads, but it's 1 in many thousands. But then the odds that you can actually predictably deal off all 5 spades, I think probably even more impressive that you have 2 hands like this and one of them is better than the other. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this is the effect as intended. I will confess to like a couple of things that I wasn't completely sure about. So one of the things they say is that the second hand is the second highest and the first hand is the top. But actually, I've tried this several times by now, but the second hand that I get is usually random. I don't know if what is expected is that these 5 people are sitting on a circular table and this is first and the person counterclockwise to the first is considered the second. So this is actually the second. This is reliably always all spades. The first hand always turns out to be all spades. But the straight, whatever this is called, the thing where you get the top 5 values, That's supposedly the second hand, and I couldn't get it to be. I could never get it to be the person's second to the first clockwise. But imagine that these five hands are being dealt out on a circular table, and this guy comes on the other side. I guess a second in that sense. So I'm not sure if that was what was meant, or if I've interpreted the actions wrong. So we'll have to see. Um, but let me know if the mechanics of the trick made sense. We did the up to the riffle was hopefully easy and clear. What you do is you take off about half the deck, but always remember in Gilbreth to deal off the cards. This is something that I sometimes forget to do. In riffling, it's very tempting to just take out half the deck and riffle. For Gilbreth to work, never do that. Make sure you're dealing off the cards because it's very important to make sure that the top K cards go reverse order in the other pile. Sunita, I think I did try once dealing five cards at once, but I don't think that worked. I think I tried that once just to sanity check. Um, but I think it's like the way the spades are. I think it'll become clear when we set up the trick and see what the initial ordering was. That if you do it all in one go, it'll not come because the spades are actually getting like every sixth card is a spade in the second dealing, so that's why they come together here. So you will miss out on them, I think, if you do them in one go. So yeah. Um, Again, I have no idea what's like the normal way to deal hands. Whenever we play at home, this is how we do it. So I assume this is reasonable. Um, don't know if there are more experienced players who would have a sense of what's considered a default dealing of cards into hands. But okay, maybe let me like give me a +1 if the mechanics were clear, or if you want to do it again. Basically, after you riffle, deal off five hands, one card at a time to each pile. If you like, you can turn one of them upside down and show that they look pretty random. One thing the book is clear about is pick up the packets one at a time. So these, from the first round, these five cards, treat them as one, maintain their relative order, and reassemble. But the reassembling you can do in any way you like. So if this was our first distribution, basically the more important thing is to make sure that these packets stay together and their relative order is maintained. But what happens across the packets, not so important. So you can invite the audience to ask you how they want to put these five packs together as a whole, and then deal them off again. And in my experience, in my limited experience, because I think I've just repeated this trick dozens of times today, and every time I did this, what happened was the first hand turned out to be all spades, and the last hand turned out to be the top five. So that's how it. That's the empirical evidence I have for the outcome of this trick. So they talk about the second. They talk about the second hand. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if what they mean by that is just the counterclockwise neighbor of the first guy. But you can imagine that you can enrich this trick with a lot of interesting banter. And because the entire thing is performed by the spectator, I think this can be quite impressive because you made it look like they rigged two impressive poker hands. So, and especially after a riffle. And the only thing about the riffle is, I mean, I was genuinely a little uncomfortable riffling. Like, I mean, I think it's just a matter of practice, but because it's not a full deck, riffling a small set of cards effectively, like I just don't know how to do this in a way that looks nice. So it looks, yeah, not so nice, basically. So this is why I ended up relying on a machine. But I'm sure when you're doing this, either you or your spectator can just do an ordinary riffle, and that's completely fine. Okay, so give me a +1 if you're ready to move on to how to perform the trick. I'd love to say let's talk about why it works. That's something I'm afraid we'll have to kind of figure out together because I'm not completely sure why it works just yet. It uses Gilbreth, clearly, But I think what we have to do is really observe what's happening with the deck and try to reverse engineer it. But give me a +1 if you're good to, like if you had to perform this trick, like how would you set it up? Because there's still like some missing information. I've told you the mechanics of what you do or what the spectator does, but for it to actually work, as you can imagine, the main piece of missing information is how was the deck rigged? Because it's 25 cards. I said in the beginning that you can spread your deck and make it look pretty random, which actually you can. Um, the the deck is rigged up to the top 25 cards. It's a specific rigging. And let me just repeat what's in the book. Okay, so I see one +1 in the chat. So we'll probably end up, going over it again. All right, thanks. Thanks, Vinod, as well. We'll probably end up going over it again anyway as we figure out, as we try to figure out why it works. But here is how you set up the deck. So pick out any 10 spades. So I think I picked out everything except for the face cards. I don't know if the ace is considered a face card, but basically I picked out 1 to 10. Um, there we go. Do I have them all? Yeah, I do. So these spades can be in any order. It doesn't matter. So at the top of your deck, the top 5 cards are spades. So here I have 1, 2, 3. I think I'm missing a 4 of spades. Hang on there. Impressive. How did I manage to? Hmm. Here I'm missing an 8. I don't know where I. It's very strange. Did I actually manage to make this work with? That's 5 spades right there. Okay, in the interest of time, let me just pull up a random spade from here. Okay, I think I seem to have performed some unintended magic by just losing my 8 of spades. It's very strange. All right. Anyway, okay. So 5 spades here, 5 spades here. This is the top and the bottom of your 25 is like guarded by 5 spades each. And then the remaining 15 are just basically you put in, so let's just maybe build up the deck. Put in an ace followed by a king, queen, jack, and 10. And you can mix up the faces. You can mix up the suits. It doesn't matter. But ace, king, queen, jack, 10. Tell me, I'm missing an ace as well. So strange. Okay, so this is an ace of clubs. This is an ace of diamonds. I should have an ace of hearts right here. This is totally bizarre. Don't know how I'm making cards disappear today. Okay, we just pull up arbitrary number of decks. So it's the ace of hearts here. Sorry, guys, I don't know what's happening. It's really surprising. Okay, so ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. Okay, so this is the ordering, and this is followed by the 5 of spades. And now, what happens when you? And that's okay. So this by now. Yeah, Sunita, I seem to have even doubled down by losing not just one but two. I don't know if the machine gobbled them up, but it's not possible because I dealt out 5 hands of 5 each. So there were 25 cards. Hmm, very strange. Okay, all right. Like I said, like unintended magic and humor are always interesting to have. But anyway, so so this is all you need. Now you have everything you need to make this trick work. If you just wanted to perform it, 5 of your favorite spades cards in any order, followed by, okay, we're going the wrong way. So this is from the top of the deck. You need 5 spades, followed by clearly not spreading them well, but followed by this pattern on repeat. Okay, so taking out the five of spades, then an ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. Repeat that two more times. So ace, king, queen, jack. Oops. Let's make sure. Ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. And this one, sorry, ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. And then another five spades. And that's it. You're all set. You're all set to perform. Put this on top of the rest of your deck, and pull out 25 cards, saying you want to do five hands. So pull out 25 cards. I think be careful to not deal them out. You don't want to deal them out yet. So just count off 25 cards, or if you have them face up, you can actually like just look for the run of five spades. I don't think anybody will suspect anything. So look for your five consecutive spades. Huh, I have my ace of hearts and eight of spades right here. All right, I have no idea what's up with my cards, but anyway, you have your deck face up. You can break it off cleanly here, or you can just count. I mean, there's nothing to hide, so you can just count off 25 cards. And from here, okay, so can I repeat the middle 15? Sure. So I think I should, yeah, like these are the top five. Sorry, these here are the top five, these here are the bottom five. The middle just go in this template. Ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. Yeah, so it's always these five. You can mix up the suits, it doesn't matter as long as the values are ace, king, queen, jack, 10. So it's starting from the highest, interpreting the ace as the highest. So basically the top five cards, and this is the poker hand that emerges at the end. I actually haven't double checked. I should double check carefully if one of the hands that I set up in the beginning is what shows up also at the end. Maybe no. I mean, there were times when I was just being lazy, and these were all diamonds and all clubs and all hearts. Mm, and then I think it was mixed up at the end. I'm trying to remember what happened earlier. So okay, yeah, I'm just now curious about if exactly one of these hands reemerges. Yeah, Sunita is saying no, it probably won't happen because of the shuffle. I think you're right. I don't think that's guaranteed. Right. So this is so yeah, essentially we're in blocks of five. The first block of five is all spades, and then we go ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. And again, like take it from your favorite suit. Ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. And ace, I think, yeah, rediscovered my ace, so magically brought that back. So ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. And then we have the remaining five spades. All right, so that's your deck. And we could just try to do this again. And this time we could think together about what's happening. So first, the first part is Gilbreth, which ensures what? So let's go back and think about what's the Gilbreth property in terms of general cyclic whatever. What we know is that so here we have, let's just say, blocks of five, which have a property that is. So let's just say that a block of five is nice if it's either all spades or if it has the top five values, right? So when you do a Gilbreth, then what's going to happen is every block of five will still have this property. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's something that probably going to be. So the reason you want to deal off at least five and at most 20 is, I think, because you want to keep those five spades intact on both sides. So now let's think about what happens when you do a riffle. Don't know if I want to be dramatic and bring in the machine again, but when we do a riffle, what happens? Actually, at the bottom, are we going to get 10 spades together? Because at the bottom we have we may not get 10 spades together because you might, yeah, you may not get 10 spades together. The way I have done it, you probably will. But in general, you could have, um, you'll definitely get at least five. What's going on at the bottom? So the decks are stacked up. So I have five spades here and five spades here because I dealt them out. So the top five went to the bottom five. Um, It could be 10 spades together if you have a perfect shuffle. That's true. But can we, like, is there a way of not getting 10 spades together? Because, yes, so I guess you could, from one side, so in principle, the riffle shuffle could be an extreme one where you dump one deck on top of the other. So the spades will get separated. But you'll definitely get five. Is that fair?
So is there a 1 minute explanation what the Gilbreth principle is?
Yes.
What are
So
we trying to, yeah.
right, right. So basically, I think what we are saying is that if we have five in the original deck, if we have the property that every five cards have some nice, have a nice invariant. So in this case, let's say a sequence of five cards is good if if they all share the same suit, or if they all are the top five values. Then after the shuffle, if we take out five cards at a time, they will also have this property that they either have the same suit. Let me state Gilbreth in its original form, which is the following. So let's say we set up a deck with, I don't know if I have a deck which is already set up that way. Just give me a moment. Okay, so perhaps not, but let's see. So I want the original deck to be alternating red black. So just let me know if I make a mistake here. And what you can do after this is basically give it a riffle shuffle. And what's going to happen in the shuffle deck is that there may not be alternating red black anymore. But if you take out cards two at a time, then you're going to see one red and one black. So that's something that's going to be true. Um, it's fairly impressive on its own right. Let's just try to. Yeah, sorry. I think I should have a preset. Okay, let's just confirm that this is true. So this is red, black, red, black. Ah, sorry, there's a bit of a glare as you see it. Yeah, I think that's largely alternating, or at least approximately so. So what one thing we don't want to do is, like, if I riffle shuffle half and half, if I do a perfect riffle shuffle, for example, the 10 of clubs will go on top of the two of spades. And I will have a pair of cards in the shuffle deck which are both black. So I don't want that. What I want is in the shuffle deck, if I pull out cards pairwise, then one of them should be red and one of them should be black. Okay, and that's going to happen if I deal off the top half of this deck. So let me actually deal off 26 cards. It doesn't have to be 26. It could just be any number on either side. Um, right. So now you can see that this here is a black and this is a red. Um, that's kind of natural because the cards were dealt off. And now let's just do a. It doesn't have to be a perfect shuffle. It's as you can see, far from a perfect shuffle. Things have been interleaved and are bit. So by perfect, I mean that the interleaving is one from this side and one from the other side. That's not what has happened here. It was random riffle shuffle, so we just shuffle it in. And now the Gilbreth principle says that after you do this, so again, just to recap, the original deck had red, black alternating. We dealt off K cards from the top of the deck, and then we riffled. Now, if we take out 2 cards at a time, we are always going to see 1 red and 1 black. It's always going to be true. And that's one special case of the principle. The principle in general says, for example, in the original deck, if I had ensured that every 4 cards had one of every suit, 1 heart, 1 diamond, 1 club, and 1 spade, if I do the same thing and then I pulled out 4 cards at a time, then again I would see 1 of each suit. I mean, I did not prepare the deck that way, so that won't be true in this case. But in general, you can basically take any property that you care about, repeat it cyclically in the original deck, do the riffle, and that property will be preserved um, in a cyclic manner is what is what the claim is. So one thing that so there's a nice video where they on from number 5 where they do this thing where they arrange the deck originally so that it's essentially they make sure that every 4 cards is one of each suit and every 13 cards is one of each number. Then they deal off about half the deck and riffle it in. And then if you take out the top 13 cards, you'll see that it's a permutation of 1 to 13. If you take out any 4 cards, you'll see that it's a permutation of the 4 suits. Any 4 cards like mod 4, like the first 4 cards and the second 4 cards and so on. If you take out any 2, you'll see alternating colors. So that's the Gilbreth principle. There is a more universal version of this principle, which I think I'll come to in a minute. But for this trick, apparently, all that is driving it is the Gilbreth principle. So we did the riffle shuffle. So you'll see that what happened was that, well, I am confident that at least 5 spades will come together because you are shuffling 2 decks where the bottom 5 cards on both sides are 5 spades. So when you riffle them in, if you think about where the top 5 cards are coming from, they're coming either from the left or the right, and both the left and the right have a supply of 5 spades. So the bottom, we definitely have 5 spades. Questions what's happening beyond that. Things can be a little, so here, if I were to, okay, so I don't know if I should maybe just spread this out. So I get the 5 spades as expected, then I get 2 more. So this is the thing that, so the part that I'm having a little bit of trouble analyzing is the fact that we deal them out in 5. So I think, okay, so maybe just the special case of the top deck, right? So we know that we have 5 cards, so let's forget about what's going on here. But I know that, so this part I think is reasonable. So with the riffle shuffle, I've guaranteed that the bottom 5 cards are all spades. So when we deal out into 5 hands the first time, we know that the 5 spades are getting spread into these 5 decks. It's reasonable. So these are 5 spades for sure. This is guaranteed by the riffle, right? And now we said, okay, reassemble the deck any order you like. So I know that's a spade on the top. I know this is a 6th card that's becoming a spade. This is a 11th card that's becoming a spade. This, again, the top card is a spade. The 6th card is a spade. Top card is spade, 6th card is spade. So the spades are spaced out evenly 5 at a time. So it's not surprising that the spades accumulate on the first hand. I think that part is actually clear. The question is, what's going on with this last one? So the first hand being all spades, I think, is reasonable. I don't know if there is Okay, do we get a similar phenomenon at the top of the deck? Actually, yes. The top of the deck, okay. All right, so the top of the deck has a symmetric thing going on, I think, right? Just as I mean, the bottom 5 cards have to be spades. I think the top 5 cards more or less have to be straight. Is this what's called a straight flush? Yes, should be basically the top 5, right? Let's see if that's true. Okay, can you give me a +1 if the argument for the first hand being all spades is clear? At least half of the trick makes sense mathematically. Okay, good. Thank you. So we have 5 spades. Let's pull out. The beach volley decks are actually kind of random, which means that we really have no obligation to prove anything except for what's going on at the two extreme hands. So let's see, what did we say? Ace. Let's do this one more time with a focus on what's going on at the top. So you have ace, king, queen, jack, 10. Ace. Sorry, like being very sloppy, but ace. So I think it's important that this relative order is what it is, and then we have the 5 spades. Okay, so let's deal off a few. At least 5. So in this extreme case, if we dealt off exactly 5, what's going to happen is the top is going to be a straight. That's going to be what we want. Say we deal off a few more. So this is 12 and this is 13. So what we already know is that the bottom 5 is going to get mashed together. What is going on at the top? So what we have done is we have actually broken off one chain of thought. Like I think this was an ace, a king, and a queen on this side. And on this side, we have the jack and the 10. So question is, what happens at the top when you riffle it in? It's possible, of course, like this is an extreme riffle, right? This, if I'm a really bad riffle shuffler, which I am, I might just do that. So valid riffle, all these cards fall first and then this falls. So again, the bottom 5 are spades as you would expect. And here on the top, what has happened is we have this broken chain of thought followed by the starting of the next chain of thought, which starts at 10 and jack, because why is that? What did we do? So the way we did this was we placed this in this sequence: ace, king, queen. So what would I expect? So I'm done with, okay, so I'm looking at this in reverse order, right? So that sort of makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I'm trying to remember which was the deck that I dealt off and which is the original one. But I think it sort of makes sense that you're going in cycles, right? So basically, I dealt off a bunch. I think I dealt up to now trying to remember what I did. Sorry. Okay, apologies. I think I've lost my train of thought a little bit, or I'm not sure if I already have done some riffling. So let me do this again. So I have the 5 spades here. And I think basically if we can argue that the top is also going to be a straight flush, we're basically done. Okay, so just bear with me for a second. Ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. Ace, king, queen, jack, and 10.
Hildara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I think we need the 5th, 10th, 15th, 20, and the 25th card to be ace, king, queen, jack, and 10.
We do.
Just like you wanted the
Yes,
1st, 6th,
correct.
11th.
Correct.
So we need the 5, 10, 15,
5,
20,
10,
25.
exactly.
That is the argument we have to make.
Correct, exactly. So I think if the top is
So it's not about top 5.
well, the thing is the top 5 will get dealt out in the first dealing, just like with the, let's see. So maybe I deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me deal out 12. And let's do a riffle. And I agree, it may not be about the top 5. It's actually not such a bad riffle. But just for kicks, let's validate that the top 5 is indeed a straight, right? We see all the values. The top 5 in the first dealing are going to get distributed across the 5, right? Across the 5 piles. So, so if we prove that the top 5 is always going to be a straight, let me just call it a straight flush without apology for this discussion. Let's assume that that's what it means, that you have all the top 5 values. So here I have a jack, I have a 10, I have an ace, I have a king, and I have a queen. Sorry, I hope that was all visible on camera, right? So now when I'm going to, yeah, so these middle values, maybe there are no guarantees. So that's, we don't care. These are all spades like we saw last time. Spade again, right? So now last time we said, okay, this is the top and this is the 6, but now let's also focus maybe on, let me just bring everything on this, okay? So this, the bottom card was one of the ones that we cared about. And now this is the 6th card from the bottom. This is the 11th card from the bottom. This is the 16th card from the bottom, and this is the 21st card from the bottom, right? So I think that does put the straight flush positioned in a special place, right? Because now we see that if we group these off as 5s, what's happening is at the bottom of this group is the stuff that is the straight flush material. And at the top of this group is the spade. So yeah, okay. So I think, sorry, this is all very real time, but in these 5 groups of 5 each, we see that the top and the bottom cards are special. So the bottoms are all spades, right? And the tops are all like queen, king, ace, 10, jack. So now when we assemble these and deal them out, when we assemble these and we deal them out, what's going to happen is that, okay, so the top card, which we know is a spade, will go here. Then 1, 2, 3, don't care. These we don't know. The bottom, this was a part of the straight flush. This will go here. So now it's not surprising, therefore, that this will accumulate the straight flush and this will accumulate the spades. So groups of 5. So Sunita, is that okay? Is that okay that if we can show that the top, because I think the top 5 being the straight flush and the bottom 5 being the spades, and then the thing is that we do this, it's important that we do the dealing twice. In the first dealing, what's happening is that they're getting well separated. I don't know if I should put it that way. Yeah, they are getting well separated, right? Because if the top 5 is the straight flush and the bottom 5 is all spades, then when we deal it out the first time separately, then the bottom 5 gets spread into 5 different hands at the top, and the top 5 would have gotten spread into these 5 hands at the bottom. And then when we accumulate them, then these two, like the top and the bottom of each pack, will occupy these two special positions in the full deck. And then when we spread it out again, then we are done, I think. Yeah. Okay, so this actually makes sense. I'm very glad we're doing this. I think the common energy helps with discovery, because I was kind of trying to puzzle this out and I wasn't sure what was going on. But I think now it's actually reasonable. As usual, I was struggling with this enough that I thought I'll try to animate what was happening. I'm sorry, me and my Bluetooth struggles. Yeah, the first dealing spreads it out, the second dealing brings it back. So the main thing that's still a bit of an open problem is to confirm that the Gilbreth shuffle actually keeps the top. Wait, this is my 8 of spades. Just retrieve from the floor. But anyway, yeah, so I think we have to just argue that the Gilbreth shuffle, I think it's a symmetric argument, just like we argue that the bottom five have to be spades. I think a similar argument should tell us that the top five is the thing that we care about.
Okay, so
Um,
I have an argument why the
okay,
top five should be
okay,
the
awesome.
10 pointers.
Hmm,
So after you have split it into two piles,
correct.
so at least on one side you have the top five to be of 10 pointers.
Correct. Some of those, yeah, right.
No, at least on one side,
Hmm,
the top five will be 10 pointers.
I see. Okay.
Because there is a
No matter,
possibility that you
right,
split
right,
it
right,
into
right,
5
right.
and 20,
Correct, correct, correct. Yeah, no
right?
matter
So
how you
if
split it, that's correct. Yeah, you're
so
right.
when you split it into 5 and 20, the very bad case would be you
But I
take the
think it's the same story on the other side, right? By
no,
some.
but what if your riffle shuffle is such that you take 5 and 20
Mm-hmm.
and then leave the bottom four,
I see.
bring these 20 and the fifth one on the top.
Okay, so let me see if I can execute something like that. So these are 5 spades. So you're saying we have 5 on one side and 20 on the other, is it?
And then in your riffle shuffle,
Hmm.
keep the 5 of the left as it is,
Mm-hmm.
put all the 20 and the fifth. No, you have only 5 of the left. Remove the
Correct.
top one
Oh, I
from
see.
the 5
Okay, so I have 5 on the
on the
left.
left.
Right.
So remove the fifth card.
Okay,
Yeah, and then put those 20 on top of this. That is your riffle shuffle.
I see.
And then put this there. Now the top 5 are not going to be 10 pointers.
Okay, it's a good point. And that's going to be an issue even if I see. Correct. So how did our argument for the bottom?
Oh, but after that, okay, sorry. After that, are you not dealing it one by one?
I am, but I was making the slightly lazy argument that if I know that the top 5 cards are what I care about and the bottom 5 cards are what I care about, then I'm done. But I think Sunita's point is that the top 5 may not be what I care about because it's kind of corrupted a little bit right now. So it's
But do we need top five, or is it sufficient to show that there are any, like, except the bottom five, there is something in the middle which is a continuous chain?
yeah, but if it's something in the middle when I do the dealing that separates and the dealing that it brings back, then I will not know which one. Like if it was something in the middle.
But if it is something in the middle which is mod 5,
Right, right. So I will know that one, like I'll know that the first deck is all spades, and then I will know that one of the other ones is a straight flush, but I don't know which one. Whereas here, the thing is that you can always say that the first is all spades and the last is,
oh, okay, okay.
right? If it's something in the middle, then one of them will be, but we won't know which one. So that's the slight contention here. So let me see. I think this is still a good deck. I think, or maybe not. 1 second. No, so actually, let's just go back a little bit. I think this is what we want. So what you're saying is that an extreme riffle shuffle could be that you deal out 4 from here, deal out the rest on top. So the bottom is still 5 spades, and then this somehow comes on top, I see. Would this possibly happen if we say there's not at least 5, but more than 5. So if we deal out not just the 5 spades, but at least one more, can this still happen? I guess. Okay, so Sunita, let's.
Yeah, that in this case also it can happen.
It can, but let's think
Yes.
of at least 10 maybe instead of at least. The book says at least 5. But for the sake of our argument, let's deal off at least 10, because then I think you're going to be a little bit safe by a symmetric reason, because then I think here you have at
Yes.
least
So
5 of the good stuff, right?
yeah,
But-
even instead of in 5, you can also take 12, 13 on either side, on one
Correct.
side and
Yeah,
13 on the other.
exactly. So yeah,
So in
exactly.
all these cases, there is a guarantee.
Correct. So I think if you have like a protective, like essentially here, what we are ensuring is that the bottom 5 on both sides is 5 spades, and the top 5 on both sides is 5 of what we care about. So now I think if
So
you
in
do,
that case, now you just turn your deck entire set upside
Hmm.
down. So your
Oh.
riffle shuffle, but with the face up.
Okay, sure.
So now that argument, whatever we use for the bottom.
Correct. Yeah, it's the same. It's the
Yes.
symmetric argument. Yeah, exactly right. So here you're again going to get like, yeah, you may have messed up the relative order, but I think you still get the. Yeah, so now I think it's completely symmetric. Actually, because of what you just explained, like that example with exactly 5 or exactly 6 or 7, you can actually mess things up. So I'm not sure why the book says at least 5 and at most 20. I think they probably assume that in practice, you'll probably still be riffling. But I think, okay, like to be mathematically safe and to be safe in practice, I think just deal off half the deck. I think that's that way you have safeguards on both sides. And mathematically, I'm reasonably convinced that the argument works. And I think, of course, if one had to write it down, you'd have to be a little careful. But I think it's kind of intuitively clear that when you riffle this in, so just to recap, what's happening after the riffle is not like, I don't think this is proper riffle. So ignore the actual values. But what's going to happen is that these, in the first dealing, these are, so it's exactly like Ravi said in the chat. In the first dealing, the 5 spades get separated because you know that actually this is the straight flush or the top 5. So they get separated. And then what's happening here, we actually don't care. So I think you could do anything you like. You could even start dealing them in a different order. But yeah, actually the order within a dealing actually doesn't matter. But yeah, so now I know that I'm holding on to, yeah, this may not be true because, okay, this actually is true. But yeah, what we know when you're actually performing is that these are 5 spades, so these get separated. So this is after the first distribution of 5. And at this point, performatively, you could just pull out a random thing and say, look, it looks kind of random. So nothing special so far. And at this point, you can have the audience direct how you fold. But the good thing is these are groups of 5 top and bottom cards, what you care about. So when you stack these back together, both the 1, 6, 11, 16, 21, those cards, and the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, those cards will all be the ones that you want. And so depending on which way you're counting, if this is your 1, so 1, 5, 6, 10, 11, I guess, 15. So this is accumulating 5, 10, 15. This is accumulating 1, 6, 11, 16, and so on. So you have exactly the stuff that you want at the extremes. And so I'm now convinced also that it's really these two decks. And okay, so now I think that the math is okay. So yeah, this makes me quite happy. The math makes it does add up. I think one minor change from in the book, they say deal out at least 5, at most 20. I think to be on the safer side, deal out at least 10, at most 15. So you have a 5-sized safeguard on both sides, I guess. So that would that would ensure that the argument is clean and the trick also, like, I think works a little more reliably if you do it that way. Also, from a practical perspective, a riffle is best done with two decks that are roughly the same size. So I think dealing out 11, 12, 13, 14, that many cards kind of makes sense also from the point of view of riffling. So yeah, so I don't have, yeah, I think, like I said, I did attempt to animate this, but this is actually quite incomplete. So this is the ordering that, this is a random order in the sense that you can mix up the suits and you can pick any of the spades you like. So this randomly generates an order that fits that template. It deals out the cards. The second pile, yeah, this is not, again, I think this is not done very well in the sense that I think the convention for top to bottom is mixed up. So the second pile should be displaying this in reverse order. And then it does the riffle, which I think should be a little more animated. And then it does this distribution. I think, again, the relative ordering is all messed up, but what I wanted to, I think, show, what I wanted to be able to see was what was going on to try and figure out what's happening. But now that we know what's happening, I'll go back and fix this animation. So I think what should become clear at this stage of this presentation is that each of these groups of 5 have a spade at the top and a card from the straight flush at the bottom. So if I can show that clearly, then I think if I can properly animate the reassembly, then I think the argument will become visible eventually. But that's whenever I manage to actually finish this. Just kind of racing against time today. Sorry, so didn't get this really done. The top 5 on both sides should be a flush. I think. Yeah, I think part of the point of the Gilbreth property should be that I think even if you have broken a 5, broken a series of 5s, I think the riffle will still, like, the relative order may be messed up, but you will still get 5, like the contiguous 5 on top, I
No,
think.
so what I mean is that there must be at least 10 cards on either side.
There must be at least 10 on either side, is it?
So that even if we do a stacking,
Huh.
it'll work. If the riffle
Is it
results in a stacking,
like, okay, so you mean a riffle where it's essentially like you
like
just
a cut.
this followed by this, like a cut, like, yeah, okay. But even then 5 is enough, right, Smita? One side, because all you need is 5 on top. So
No, but that 5 will be all 5 spades.
no, the 5 spades will be at the bottom, right? Because you
No,
will
but
them
if
out.
you make it 20, so you stack
20 and
the-
5, 20 and 5 will not work. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if you
Right.
take at least 10 on one side,
Oh yeah, 10. The total number of cards should be at least 10.
at
Yeah,
least 10,
absolutely. Yeah.
then this trick will work even on a dumb shuffle.
Correct. Yeah. Right. I think I should have clarified that that's what I meant all along. Meaning that when I said there should be at least 5, I meant there should be at least 5 on top of the 5 spades. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. So for the, yeah. So that's I think, in, like I said, for some reason in the book they say that you will be okay even if you deal out 5. I'm not sure that I see like because of the example that you pointed out. I think if you deal 5 and do a bad riffle, it may not actually work. I mean, at least from, like, I think there's an example where you can see that you won't get what you expect. But yeah, if you deal out at least 5 of the good cards, the straight flush on top of the 5 spades, then you have a cushioning, then the argument becomes exactly symmetric. So like for the spades, we argued it from the bottom. For the straight flush, we'll argue it from the top. This was the part where you said if you just turn the deck face up on both sides, and
Yes.
it's the same thing. So for that, we need a cushioning of 5 on both sides. I think that makes sense. So I'll see if I can write this up properly, because in the book, I think they conveniently don't argue why this works. But yeah, it's actually a pretty clever presentation, and it's a nice example of what they mean when they say, now that you know the Gilbreth principle, see if you can use it to create an effect. And I think this combines Gilbreth with this idea of splitting and pulling back together. And I think as a performance, this can actually, like, I mean, yeah, if unlike me, you can pull off the banter and the general chit chat. I think this can make for a really impressive demonstration. So, and the math is really nice. I think there's really no sleight of hand other than just making sure that the decks are roughly equally sized for the riffle, and the riffle is genuine. You can really have the spectator do it. Think it's just important to remember to deal off the cards. I keep, like, for me, riffles very intuitively cut the deck and riffle. So it's really, I think, crucially important to remember to deal off the cards. But other than that, I think it's all very clean and doable, I think. Okay, so we're just about a little over the hour. So yeah, the other plan I had was to maybe go over a little bit of the ultimate Gilbreth principle, and like this chapter actually has some proofs in the appendix, and they have some nice. So I mean, basically, this is 2 out of the, like, yesterday we did this computery effect. Today we did this one. Tomorrow we will look at another magic trick along with connections with the Mandelbrot set. And if we have some time, maybe we will look at, like, the ultimate Gilbreth principle basically generalizes this to saying that the cyclic things can be any mod thing that you care about. The shuffle kind of preserves structure in a way that kind of precisely characterizes the class of all permutations that are reachable by doing Gilbreth shuffles. Gilbreth shuffle being deal of K. So basically look at a permutation and ask yourself, can you obtain this from, let's say, a sorted deck of cards by dealing off the top K and doing a riffle? Is there some riffle and some choice of K that will give you this permutation? And the ultimate Gilbreth principle gives you a character, like you can basically answer this question because it characterizes the permutations that are reachable in this very specific fashion. So that's what we'll look at. I mean, we'll definitely at least state the principle, because that's kind of one of the highlights of the chapter. If we have a few minutes to spare at the end, we'll also try to go through the argument, which I think largely makes sense so far to me. But then there's also some really interesting connections with polynomials. So that's the rest of this chapter, and that's what's coming up tomorrow. So any parting thoughts or comments? This would be a good time. If not, then we will call it a night and pick this up tomorrow. All right, maybe this is a good time